doesn't take long for that for a good thing to suddenly become rubbish again, or whatever, politicized and all that, and which is a good way to segue over to this interesting little article, right, from Forbes, the money people, like the money website, about the boys. So let's have a look at that, and then we'll go from there. So this is the boys crossed the line and wasn't hilarious at all. So what is this about? And this is something I'm like, I have a beef in, I guess, about, in the sense that, like, it's okay to, and this is good to do with comics, so not getting political here or anything like that, right? Because I just don't care for that on this channel. PlungeCasters and that, and PlungeCast will probably hopefully come back in a couple of weeks. So we'll talk about that there. But this is interesting in the sense of, like, a couple of years ago when they said they were going to do this, like do a live action of the boys, right? My thing on that was, yeah, no, I'm not into it. That's not for me, right? I'm not keen on that. And so I had friends go, no, this is really good, dude. This is really good. And people who I respect and know, and who I know as big comic book fans and stuff, and who I've known for decades. And even one guy who I went to film school with, right, who I sold my comics to, and and I knew he's just as big into comics as I am. And he was like, you know what, you're gonna enjoy this, man. This is what you're gonna really. They did a really good job. Everything's really cool. And plus, it's got one of the leads, right? Carl Urban. He's a Kiwi. He was Judge Dredd. So why don't I? And then of course they've got Anthony Starr and all this. But then over time, and this is why I don't jump into like live action stuff of. I'd rather watch an anime based off a manga before I watch a live action movie based off a comic book. And that's just me. Anybody can do whatever they want. That's my position, right? I would rather watch an anime but made in Japan, right, by Japanese people, based on their own, creators' mangas, than a live action comic book adaptation or book or whatever have you, right? Anytime some IP makes its way over to Hollywood, because they have their own agenda, right? They're there to promote the book, to promote their movie, their TV show. They don't care for the original work. And so, and I've met, I've talked to writers, right, comic book writers, creators who've had their work turned into adaptations, and so they see the adaptation as its complete own thing. It's not the original work. It's its own complete own thing, right? The one person I talked to said, "This is my work. This is their work. This is what I do. This is what they do. There's a separation." And so, after that conversation, I really understood that there is no sort of like a togetherness between the live action and and the comic book, the original work. Between the two shall never meet. That's why you see 16 years of like lack of promotion of any comic books, even though all those characters that Marvel put out, show the when they put the Marvel logo and it goes all these flipping of these comic book characters. There's no mention of like later on, okay, or even if there is, it's very small, right? And so this is what so here's what I think, right? So when this came out, I was like, I'm not I'm not down. And I had, like I said, I had several friends of my New Zealand friends who said, get behind this, you'll really enjoy it, you know, and they were like talking this up and everything. I was like, but here's the thing, I really love the Boys, right? The comic book. I really love the Boys comic book. It's something that I went out of my way after it was over, right? And this is like about 2007 because the work had come out about maybe 2003, 2004. And they got kicked out of DC for it, right? They did 6 issues and they were out. You're like, yo, you're parodying our, you know, our superhero ideas, right? Your characters are basically, you know, is crapping on our own comic book company, right? What we stand for, right? Not seeing it as like, this is a pretty cool book, like on its own. You know, it wasn't part of like, you know, DC. It was a part of like an offshoot of DC. Like I think it was under wasn't it was like a, you know, like a studio book kind of thing, create our own thing. I think it was under Vertigo, if I remember right. Excuse me. So the thing was like, you know, so they got kicked out, right? After about 6 issues. After 4 issues, they were like, yeah, we don't, yeah. I think this isn't going to work for us. So they went over to Dynamite. And so about 2007, when I returned from my, you know, 3.5 years at the bottom of New Zealand doing, spend, you know, half a year working. And then the next 3 years, I went and did my film school while working 2 part-time jobs. I worked as a painter, right? Interior and exterior painter of, you know, buildings, and also wallpapering. You'd never wallpapered before, right? Got showed how to and then did it. Not only that, worked as a tile salesperson because that's what I spent prior to going there for 3 years. And, you know, worked as a warehouse person. And then also worked as a bistro chef, right? Cook. Order up, cook it, pass it on. So I did 2 jobs with, I guess, on and off 3 different jobs over those 3.5 years while I studied. And so when I came back around about 2007, I went to a shop that was called Gotham Comics here in New Zealand, right? It was another, like way over from, you know, it took about half an hour to 45 minutes to drive from where we lived at that time in the city of Auckland. And so, you know, I went over and talked to the, talked to the person named Jeremy. He's the manager of the store. And so, you know, and I said, you know, I'm looking for comics. And said, well, what, you know, what are you looking for? It's like, well, you know, I'm into Alan Moore, Garth Ennis, Warren Ellis, more mature stuff. I don't want the same old, you know, stuff. And he said, well, have you heard of the Boys? I said, no, I haven't. It's like, well, they've just released this, you know, I've got a free #1, which is like a free, you know, like $1 comic, whatever, 99-cent comic. I said, look, take this home for free, right? You don't have to buy it. Try it out and let me know what you think. And this is why I do the digital thing, right? Hey, here's $2.99 or here's $1. Try out our comic and see if you like it. Because I know that if my work is good enough, you will return, right? Maybe not right away, maybe later, or maybe, you know, remember sometime, go, oh, yeah, that's right, I read that. And I was like, oh, right, it's out now, you know, and you go back. So I took it home and I read it because I'd already bought like another pile of books that, you know, from him. And then I just got that. Took it home and go, wow, this is great. I rang up and go, hey, man, get me everything you can get me on this, right? So for the next, I guess, like 2 years, I just, you know, you go, yeah, I got this one's in now. Yeah, Becca, you found that one. Yeah, got that. And then, like, you know, later on, you know, I found Derek Robertson, who's the artist on there, right? And I hold up this sometimes. I don't know if I did that last time, but you know, I said, you know, this is his artwork here that's been made into a cold cast sculpture of his character. I mean, the one that he worked with Warren Ellis on, right, called Transmetropolitan, and this is inspired of Jerusalem, one of my favorite characters in a non-superhero setting. He's a journalist, and you know, I've been a radio DJ and journalism has been part of the other things I've done over the years, interviews and stuff like that. I do that even now, right, with with the stuff we do with the PlungeCast. And so I said, look, when you come, if you ever come to New Zealand, I'll rock on up and I'll get, I'll bring all my boys and any other thing I've got of yours, which is like Transman, and please sign it for me. Yeah, man. So I went up with like one of those kind of like a shoebox type thing, but not really, but those printer paper boxes, right? So like friggin', and just dumped, I said, hey man, remember me? He goes, yeah, man. Like, yep. So we, he's sitting there drawing it. I threw a couple remarks, like, I think I didn't hold up long enough. He kind of did stuff like this. It's only one in the world, right? One of a one, right? And then he also did another, a sketch of Huey on the hardcover volume 1, which, of the Boys, right? The first 6-issue hardcover. And he did a thing in the front, sketched that only one in the world, right? And so, like, and he was sitting there for about half an hour just signing away, and we're just talking and stuff, and it was just great, right? And so, however, right, when the TV show, like I said, when the TV show came, I was like, yeah, I'm not into this, man. I'm like, I just don't want this ruined for me, because I really love this comic book, and I've seen everything else that they've done. Like, basically, you look at what happened to Watchmen, right? And with the TV series, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't, and everybody's saying, this is the bee's knees, man. This is the best thing. And like, I'm like, no, I just don't want what I have come to love get tainted by Hollywood, get tainted by people putting their own political stances on it, not letting the characters be themselves, and what they're supposed to be. So you got people like, they're bringing in like real world politics into it. And so you get stuff like this, right? Like, you get stuff here where, let's go through this, right? So what you get here is this. Because the Boys crossed the line. It wasn't hilarious at all, right? This is by Eric King, senior contributor, right? I write about TV shows, movies, video games, entertainment, and culture, right? It's from Forbes. Legit, right? This is one of the biggest names out there when it comes to media, and legit media, not like, what have you, shill stuff. So here goes. Like, this is updated like 2 days ago, right? Was it last month? No, 3 days ago, I think. Is that what it is? Then Nathaniel, if you're still watching, do you guys is that the month here and then you guys do the date? Because we go month and then date. So if it's the month and date, then this is a 6, which is about 3 days ago. So for me anyway. So the Boys have always been a show determined to shock and disgust its audience, right? And this is the thing, right? The comic book wasn't there to shock and disgust. The comic book was basically there to show you what would happen if heroes had absolute power. That was it. Like, if you had like a superhero who could do anything, why would they stop at not doing anything? Right? Who would be there to stop them from doing anything they wanted? Because who the hell is gonna, if a guy cannot be brought down by a missile, how do you bring him down? Right? And so this was the whole idea, right? And so, you've got, so they don't even get what it was about. It was about absolute power, right? Like, and putting a stop to absolute power, keeping these superpowered beings control, right? Yeah, let them do their thing. And the other thing was that, guess what? These superpowered beings who are held up as the heroes of the world are despicable human beings, because they have the power to do whatever the hell they want. They do whatever they want. And this is why I felt like The Boys was such an amazing, story, right? Because it was about real heroes and about real villains who are seen as heroes, who are portrayed as heroes. So The Boys are made up of, Huey, and it's been a while since I read it, right? And Frenchie and the girl and so on. And of course, Carl Urban's character, right? Butcher. And it's a serious book with serious topics, right? Deals with a lot of stuff, and it's like, this is why, you know, and that's and not what DC was wanting to talk about, right? And and this is why I like reading Garth's works, because he really gets in there, right? And into what, you know, he doesn't shy away from stuff. And not only that, he's apolitical. If you read his work, he's not trying to say this and this side or that side, left or right. He's just telling you the story of the characters, right? And then that's what makes it really cool about the Boys, which is why I like the Boys so much. I've probably got every single issue. Maybe the last couple mini series I don't have, but I've read them all. Apart from probably the last one they put out when this show came out, I was like, yeah, I don't want to touch anything after to do painted by the show, right? So there you go. The Boys have been a show determined to shock and disgust its audience, the TV show, right? So it's no wonder that they keep pushing the proverbial envelope. I'm no prude, but I'm often plenty grossed out by the show, though in the past that's mostly been a good kind of grossed out. It's been funny for the most part, though, and this is, you know, the writer talking, Eric Kane. It's been funny for the most part, though early on in the series, Starlight, Erin Moriarty is sexually assaulted by the superhero, the Deep, right? Chase Crawford. And there is this whole thing about so-called, there's no evidence of it, people piling on about Erin's looks, real human, you know, personal look, that she got plastic surgery done. And there's nothing that I have seen of actual people, because they never showed the receipts. They just say that it happened. You know, show the receipts, right? If that's what's happened, show them who said what, so we can freaking, you know, like I did the other week, right? Actually, I was on PlungeComics. Somebody was being racist on a post I made. It had nothing to do with race, and so I showed, there's the receipts. Showed it to my friend. I put it on Facebook. This said that. Bring the receipts, right? So people can make up their own mind. I didn't, you know, yeah. Anyway, so that was quite sad, right? And then she went and got a whole lot of plastic surgery and messed herself up. And this is the other side of that, right? Like, Hollywood really distorts reality a lot, to the sense where people, their own minds get distorted by what they're part of. And we see this all the time. And I don't need to go into that. Okay. So that scene, you know, so she got aped, you know, assaulted by that dude, and that's in the book, but it isn't, you know, it's a part of the story, and it's in the comics. It's part of the story, and about how it showcases the despicableness of these so-called superheroes who are, you know, who are lauded as heroes. I mean, superpowered beings who are lauded heroes in this world, because they're all, you know, backed by a multi, you know, friggin' company, right? Who creates these you know, these power pills, whatever you want to call them. Void, right? And by the way, all I'm saying here is I haven't read the comic for probably maybe half a decade. So it's just off whatever I can remember, right? But like I said, it's one of my favorite comic book series. It's like about 75 issues plus, and I think I've every single one, plus mini issues as well. And most of them, half of them are signed, because that's what I had at the time, right? This is like about 2013, maybe 2014, when Derek came to New Zealand. Okay. So that scene was deeply disturbing, and it was supposed to be. Exactly. It was supposed to showcase that. And here's the thing about this. Sometimes live action, you don't really have to show it. You can, you know, you can kind of allude to it and people get it. And because, and I'm like the same, like when it comes to horror, right? Your brain, we're very mature, right? Audiences, like our whole life's been around about media, right? TV, movies, stuff like that, stories. So we're not dumb anymore, right? To what stuff. And so our brains can work out what's going on without having to see it. You know, that's why I like music, right? You know, oh, it's doom, doom, doom. And you know, something's bad about to happen without even seeing anything on the, you know, on the screen, because our brain already knows that's what that's there for, letting you know something bad could happen. Oh, might be about to happen. So it was a tough scene, but it was there for a reason. Here for the reason, right? Starlight got her first glimpse at how vile the Seven truly are, right? Were, though not the last. Soon she realized that even the Golden Boy Homelander, Anthony Starr, also a Kiwi, right, was a villain, right? The hero, the main guy, Homelander, right, which is basically based off Superman, right? And I mean that sort of superhero character and stuff. Because later on you see there's like X-Men's involved in this, and Professor Xavier's in part of this as well. And if you know, which is probably what they're going to allude to later on. I don't know if they're going to actually go there or not, because this you know, the boys take shots at everything. This is why I said it was, you know, it's this book is so good because the comic book is so good because it takes shots at everything. Right. So here we go. So Homelander, it's a villain, right? And it's not the superhero everybody thinks, and not the hero everybody thinks. I think I should try to keep that two things. You know, there's superpowered and then there's hero. And so Homelander is not a hero. He is a superpowered being who's a friggin' villain because he's got absolute power to do absolute anything he wants, and which is the reason why the boys come to be. Because the feds realize that, hey, we need control of these guys, otherwise we'll be outmatched by them, and they could do whatever they want. They could turn this into a dictatorship. They could, you know, they could bring all their friends around, which is what heroism was on, where this is all about, and do whatever they want, and nobody could stop them. And that's the whole point of that, right? Absolute power controls. I mean, absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. So in this week's episode of The Boys, and like I said, I don't watch this, and I never will, because I have the comic books. And when it comes to The Boys, I'm a purist, right? I even sometimes I've thought, okay, oh, all right, okay, you guys are saying I might just watch it, and then I'm like, next thing you know, there's another list comes up and another thing comes up. I'm like, yeah, no, I just don't. I think I was right to stay the hell away from this thing and not have my brain fried, you know, by whatever they think they want to do with this. So in this week's episode, The Boys, however, things are taken too far and not in a good way. There's a shock value, and then there's shock value, right? This is what I mean. Like that, you don't have to. The reason there's checks, like there should be checks and balances things in the sense, like when it comes, even like me, right? As a writer, as a creator, even I have to go, yeah, we're not going to put that in this book. I mean, I put out a single panel this big, out of a whole page of this big, a single panel out because I thought, yeah, I don't think that's where we want to go with this book. That was it. Because I was like, oh, but you're censoring yourself. No. There's an audience that I want to reach with this book. And that's the audience that I want to enjoy this book. And that's the audience I want to cater to with this book. And plus, it doesn't deserve to be there. There's no reason for it to be there. It's just like shock value, you know? And I don't want to give that shock value. It looked all right on paper when I was writing it. But when it actually came to seeing it, I was like, oh, shit, I don't want to see that. And that's the thing, right? Sometimes you just go, you know, yeah. And it just changed the whole dynamic of the book, and it became this amazing work, right? Which is almost complete. We're on the last 3 pages of it, and the last page is like a friggin' dual 2-spread page. Oh, just beautiful. You know, and you guys will see why, you know, why that book is so good, because it's just, yeah, can't wait. And we're not going to release it this year. We might do a digital black and white, but we're going to release it probably next year. Once we have both issue 1 and 2 completed, then we'll release issue 1. Because I want to kind of be like, be able to drop things, you know, in a particular time, like every 6 months and stuff. And so it's easier when you have a couple books set up, even though, like, you it'll be great to have it out there. But like, I think doing a black digital, black and white digital out kind of introduces people to it world, right? And it's really cool to also just to see what people think of it and build on that. We're going to do a great our website we're working on. We're doing profiles for that book. It's got its own website, and it's not only that, it's, you know, we're going to create all this stuff for that for this book, so that, you know, when we get to where we want to get to it, you guys will know why we put so much effort into this world. All right, so okay, so in this week's episode, oh yeah, so there's shock value, returning to the article. There's shock value, and then there's shock value. Season 4, episode 6, titled Dirty Business, is only shocking in its lack of empathy for victims of sexual assault. Right? And this is what really kind of annoyed me, is like, nowhere in the comic book that I read, you know, so I remember right, it's like there was always empathy given to victims of these crimes, of any crime, like even Huey, right? When you open this, you know, when you open the first 2 pages and you see Huey there, looking shocked at what had just happened to his girlfriend, and you know straight away something's got to be done right about this, right? And so on and stuff. And it's just, and that's the boys. The boys are I mean, they're not like perfect beings. They're just normal human beings who basically are tasked with keeping these guys in check, these friggin' villains who are being portrayed as heroes in check, right? And so, yeah, so no empathy for victims of assault, right? Sexual assault. It's odd because last week right? And this is from, so he's talking about episode 6 here. Now he's talking about episode 5. It's odd because last week was the first time this season, that I genuinely thought to myself, this is finally getting good, right? The episode had a lot of love, from flying superhero sheep to a hilarious parody of Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe, Get Woke, Get Yoked. Is one of the funniest and most absurd things this show has done. And ridiculous woke product placement in the episode is classic The Boys, right? So imagine the guy doing a video, right? The Boys season 4 is finally getting good. To, where is it? Lack of empathy for victims of sexual abuse, sexual assault, whatever, you know, happens. But it all came crashing down in episode 6 when Huey learns the saying, never meet your heroes the hard way, the same way that Starlight did back in season 1. This time, however, the assault is tackled with all the nuance of a freight train crashing into a brick wall, which is what, you know, I think they're alluding back to the comic book and probably episode 1 or whatever it was. They, you know, like I said, I don't watch The Boys because I know the comic book, but in the comic book, it says like L train or A train, whoever it is, like it smashes, you know, rushing past, and like basically his girlfriend gets smashed into the wall, right? And so, you know, and here's the thing about like Hollywood, it finds joy in male assault victims, yet they're like, we must speak for the victims of female assault, which is 100% I'm on board with. But the duality, the hypocrisy when it comes to male victims, they just laugh it off. Look at all the times in like you know, in comic book movies, right? Whatever you want to have it. How many times guys get kicked in the balls? It's done for humor, right? We understand because it's, but however, if you did that for real to a person, you could kill them. you could kill a dude, and yet it's laughed off as like a joke. And yeah, we do laugh at it because hey, it is funny. But I've had uh, I've had a skateboard, like I think in the 90s, yeah, early 90s, maybe late 80s, a skateboard, like the tail end of a skateboard hit me there, man. And I was out for, forever. And I think it's had long-term, effects. And this is what I think, like the whole idea of like, and not only that, like, how that's, and because it becomes funny after a while, and because anything that's funny, people would do, right? In real life, because, oh, it's fun, you know, and kick it there. And like, it's done a lot. It's done a lot as well as in wrestling as well. And I think it's like, it's like, it's a cheating thing, and they do that like to show who's the bad guy. Yet, like, it's kind of always laughed off. But, and then like if somebody, people have died from it, right? And it is, and we're not, males aren't that friggin', what is called soft, that we can't laugh at that. But there is this thing there, like, yeah, let's keep doing it for laugh. And after a while, it just becomes this. It's just for fun, and it's not something that's actually could be serious. However, and nobody should ever take assault as comedy, whether it's for female, whether it's children, whether it's for males. It should never, and the comics never did that, right? Because if you read the comics, because it's talking about herogasm, if you read that story up, which is about 6 issues, there's a lot of things that goes on there that grosses the hell out of me. Even as someone who's, writes pretty full on stuff, as you'll see with Templeton, right? But also very, pretty PG stuff, because I'm a writer and a creative person. So I just write what I think is, which in that world works for what those characters are doing, right? Otherwise, why write it? Because I'm not trying to go for shock value. I have a A to Z of what I'm trying to write with these characters. I'm giving them their own thing. They behave this way because of all the things that happened with them. It's like a action to reaction, right? So, yeah, carrying on. So now we've got content warning. So I'm going to, and so he goes and says, right, my colleague, Paul Tassi, has already detailed why the scene is messed up. And so you guys can read that. And I have put that in the chat, didn't I? No, I haven't. So let me just put this article in the chat so you guys can read that later for yourselves, right? And like I said, I love The Boys. I have friggin' signed copies of it. It's one of my favorite friggin' things. I've hardcovers. I've got signatures done. I've gone out of my way to pay $30 for a copy, right? In private sales, I paid $60 or something for a hardcover, right? Stuff like that. So this isn't something that I just am saying this just because, oh, it's just a topic that's come up, or it's good for whatever viewers, whatever. No, I love The Voice comic book series, right? It's done in a really the stories are told in a very, very good way. I encourage you to read the comic book before watching this trash, right? Live action, whatever it is. And that's my view, right? Because I always thought whatever they were going to do, it was always going to be messed up and not going to be for the comic books. That's why I stayed away from it right from the get-go, even though, like I was saying, all my friends were saying, who are comic readers, not just TV viewers, but actual comic book fans and readers were saying, read this. Watch this. Watch this. You got it. You will enjoy yourself. Look, it's got Carl. It's got Anthony. It's got this. It's got that. It's like, I'm like, nah, dude. There's one thing I just want to hold on and not have live action out the wazoo about it, right? I just want to have it to stay its thing. And like I said, I'm just so glad I did, and because anytime You know, anytime the mainstream gets involved with anything good in comics and stuff, they always put little bits of themselves into it. And I understand that you can do that, you know, that's fine. But there's also this whole thing. You got to respect what's being told. You got to respect what the story is, what the characters are, and you don't try to glorify the crime. This is why I have an issue with like you know, serial killer documentaries. You know, like, oh, how many more times are we going to have a new movie talked about Jack the Ripper? How many more times? Because, you know, and here's the thing, right? You can tell a story like that, and not glorify what's being done. And the way you do that is by showing the harm it's caused to people, right? You can tell, you know, you can tell a story about assault, and you can tell it in a way that makes the victim's voice heard more than the criminal, right? His voice heard. Because one thing I've noticed recently is that with you know, this competitiveness that comes with like mass entertainment, right? Like Hollywood and stuff, they're always trying to outdo themselves. And this is what you have here, right? Three seasons, you know, you got this here. Now we got to go a bit more, man. We got to go harder. It's the way things are. You always got to outdo yourselves, right? Because otherwise it gets a bit jaded, right? But you don't have to glorify the assault, right? It's like there's a comic book I've written, right? No, we haven't got the artwork done yet. We had our issue 1 done, and then the artist decided, like, you know, he got upset over something, and decided to bail. We had about 28 pages of it done, and so now I'm waiting to get some money together. And there's an artist that I know that has similar art style, and he can do the other 7 issues because it's an 8-issue comic book, and it's great, and the artwork's great. As I said, you know, the other thing is like, yeah, and that deals with this stuff, right? It deals with stuff in Indian culture, right? And it talks about a young lady being assaulted. It talks about her wanting to walk her own way in life. Her parents, how they try to seek justice for her, how she's dealing with it, how other people are, you know, dealing with it, and why it happened, right? And so that's how, you know, you can deal with it, right? Because you don't want to like give the assaulter, the criminal, more voice than the victim, right? Because at the end of the day, what we'll do is, like, there'll be some people in society, and we can't always, you know, media isn't there to hold everybody to task. Like, we just, you know, as a creator, I understand that, because hey, we're putting out a story, you know, the art is the art, and we're the writer. But when it comes to like live action, it's real people. It's real human beings with real lives and real things. And so when you see that happen on a screen, something else ticks off in your head. It's like, it's a real reaction by real people to the real thing, as much as it's fantasy, right? However, when it's paper, if it's drawn up, we can go, oh yeah, that's just media, right? But when you see real people go through these situations, it's like, I don't like you know, what's called torture porn, right? I usually, like, I mean, I won't watch it if I'm on a downer. I'll watch it when I'm in the right mindset, right? Like the Saws and stuff like that. And even if you look at Saw, right? And everybody started copying that stuff, right? There was, you know, if you look at stuff like that, it's not there to basically glorify. And sometimes there was, right? It was like, how more can we overdo ourselves? The whole idea is like, you have a choice, and do you choose life or do you choose death? Do you and so the same thing here is, do you choose to glorify or not glorify? Do you want to show do you want to have the voice of the victim heard, or do you want to have the voice of the criminal heard, right, or the abuser? And when it comes to this sort of stuff, right, and here they say, right, this is what I'm talking about, right? So content warning, right? So I guess Paul Tassi had already detailed why the scene is messed up. So I'm gonna hop over to there, and we're gonna go look at that Paul Tassi's thing. So this is Paul Tassi's article that he wrote a day earlier, and so this is a link to that. So we won't be going through deep into this because I don't want to like glorify whatever the hell they did with this, because I hate the voice anyway, the live action. And I'm being honest with you guys, I love the comic book. I don't like all the stuff they've done with it so far, and I knew they would. In the back of my head, like, and I said to them, I was like, yeah, in time, that to my friends, I said at that time, I said, no, I don't want them to mess up this, because they will. I can, they're bound to do it because that's the way they work. So he goes season 4, right? So he goes, the voice is nearly over, and things are starting to go a bit off the rails. And this is Paul Tassi, senior contributor, games, television, movies, right? What is this? That's probably got it. Go away. All right. So the boy, yeah. Season 4 of The Boys is nearly over, and things are starting to go a bit off the rails. Not in a fun, wacky way, as we usually see from the show, but in a way that's just unpleasant and bad. A content warning follows, right? So Heroism is a mini-series that's not part of the main 75 issues of The Boys, right? It's this it's like a vacation for these terrible human beings who have superpowers, who are villains in reality. And so they go to this place and do whatever the hell they want with each other, with whoever else, including servants from, if I can remember, right? Servants, workers, whoever else, right? Because they can. And that's the reason for The Boys, as I mentioned earlier. These guys can do whatever they want because they have power. They have absolute power, right? They're the strongest beings on earth. And so the whole point of The Boys is to police them. All right. And so, yeah. There you go. So he's actually in this one. Like it says ape and not what's his name? They said Kane. Eric Kane said on the other article. So he goes, yeah. So it feels like this episode was trying to, hold on, let me get back up here. I jumped ahead. A content warning follows, right? This week's episode, Dirty Business, has a group infiltrating an alt-right meetup where a coup of the government is plotted, led by Homelander and Victoria Newman. Isn't it she from Voight? And in this evening, we get two of the worst aspects of the show this season. It's ham-handed political commentary. A Republican quotes almost verbatim Todd Atkins' famous legitimate ape decoration. It's weird. He left that there, but then he changes it here. Okay, because I guess it's a quote, right? Infamous, yeah. And also, The Boys trying to outdo itself, not by better storylines or character moments, but by just being gross. But in a way that doesn't really work at all. It feels like this episode was trying to ape the infamous, ape, I see what it means, like, same as, right? What is it called? Copy the same thing, right? Like it's there and he's doing the same thing, right? So it feels like this episode was trying to ape the infamous heroism about a superhero orgy that led to a major showdown between characters. That doesn't happen here. And a large chunk of the evening is mainly, quote, devoted to Huey being assaulted by being sexually tortured by Tech Knight and Ashley, right? Even, right, where are we? Let's put that there. Here we go. Even if it's largely things like feet tickling and cake farting, and then the threat of Tech Knight's doing something so bad to Huey, I can't even write it here, it's still assault, sexual assault. And the show at least pauses to take a breath to let Huey break down afterward, right? Still, it wasn't funny or fun to watch or whatever it was supposed to be. So this is why I was saying, like, checks and balances, right? I mean, like, you know, it's the same thing I was talking about, like that comic book, right, that we had, and there was one panel that was just like, it, you know, it looked, you know, it sounded okay in my head, looked okay when I wrote it out as, you know, this panel, but seeing it drawn up, yeah, it's just, it wasn't humorous, it wasn't anything, it just was tacky on, you know, on my part, because now I could see what I wrote, and I was like, yeah, no, that this isn't meant for that, right? If it was an R18 book, yeah, it'd be fine, right? But this wasn't an R18 book. This was a PG-13, you know, book, because that's what, you know, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be as universal as possible with the readership, right? So yeah, still, it wasn't funny or fun to watch or whatever it was supposed to be. The more I watch the current iterations of The Boys, the more I realize just how much better Gen V, that's the new series that got out, first season was by comparison, right? That show has plenty of gore and sex, but it's not the same focus, as it also has a coherent storyline and characters you want to root for, right? And that's the thing. You want to be able to have your audience root for the good guys. You know, it's the same reason why, you know, you can have a terrible home life, yet you can enjoy watching a family that's good on TV, a wholesome family, right? You can, you know, you can have terrible relationships with your friends, then you can watch an anime which is all about friends having a good thing, because you're trying to escape your, you know, for a moment, half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever it is, hour and a half, when you go to the movies, TV show, you're not watching a documentary. You're escaping to fantasy, and you don't want to have like villains being portrayed as heroes, or time given more over to villains than heroes, because there are people in our society who will see that if I do that, then I'll get more airtime, and people have done that. Like, you got, like, what's it called, like prank, you know, prank streamers and all that of Kick and stuff like that, you know, where they go up to people and threaten them with guns. Like, I saw one recently, you know, guy was basically threatening this couple who were just by themselves, and, you know, in public, right? Oh, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do this to you. And another guy comes and goes, what are you guys doing? Just stop doing this. He goes, nah, I'm going to do that to you too. And so he goes, okay, you just wait here. Goes down and gets the cops, and the cops come up and go, okay. And the guy's like, you know, crying, don't do this to me, don't take me off, I was just playing around. What happened to all the tough guy act, right? And so, you know, it's I think, you don't, like I said, you don't want to give criminals more. I mean, it's not documentary watching here, right? You know, so, you know, you don't want to, like, and I understand this is a mature comic book. I have it all, most of it, right? I have the main series, and some of the, like I said, some of the mini series, right? Six pages, 6 issues, 3 issues, whatever it is, 4 issues, and they're great. But you don't want to, like, when you're telling a story, to concentrate on making your villains the main focus, right? You don't want them to be the more the core of what you know, what your story is about. They just there because the hero needs to bring them to justice. So here we go. So The Boys back to the article. If the boys ever had that, it's now turned them into an abused Huey and a powerless Starlight. And now the show is trying to give A-Train some sort of redemption arc that, given the nature of the show, seems like it will be setting up to be violently killed off shortly after. And here's the thing. Villains should never get redemption arcs, especially the ones in this book, right, on this show, right? They should always get their comeuppance, like we say, brought to justice or sorted out by Butcher or the boys, right? So this has not been an enjoyable, he carries on, this has not been an enjoyable season. The politics has just gotten dumb, way too one-to-one parallel with real life. Who the hell wants to watch real life played out on TV in a fantasy show, right? In a way that isn't clever, even if I actually agree with those politics. And this desire to have viewers talking about the new sick things and the show that the next day is about the show sick thing the show did the next day is overwhelming all plot development, which after 6 episodes this season comes down to Homelander thinks everyone is inferior and wants to take over the country. Like, I mean, of course he does. And his world's smartest person, quote, he was working for him, has not concocted anything resembling an interesting plan to make it happen. Meanwhile, the show has no idea what to do with the rest of its central boys cast, giving them disconnected, underdeveloped storylines and isolating Butcher with his brain tumor hallucinations. So it's 5 seasons, right? So there's only one more season of The Boys after this, at least with this cast, as the series moves to spin-offs. But at this point, I'm much more looking to, Gen V, right? So, yeah. I don't know, man. I'm like, yeah, never seen the show. We're checking out now. Look, I'm never going to tell anybody what to do and not to do, right? But from what I understand, Nathaniel, you'd be better off reading the comic book, mate. Because, like I said, this show is just a trash shock thing with people just trying to outdo themselves with this IP that they never created in the first place. It's written by Garth Ennis, artwork is by Derek Robertson, right? Garth Ennis wrote it, and there's like about 100 something plus issues all up if you look at all of it. But I think The Boys is just, I mean, with what's happened here, they've really did that, like I said, like what like I said, with that the writer I talked to, and he's a famous comic book writer as well. It's not just anybody. And he had a movie made here in New Zealand based on his work. He said, look, my work is this, and this is what their work is, and therefore that and that is separate. And that's what I'm saying here. Like, so I'm going to go along with that. Like, The Boys is The Boys on TV show, and that's their trash. And for me, right, as far as I'm concerned. And I've had friends who said they love it, they liked it, and I don't think they'll like it after season 4, right? If I understand who they are, right, as human beings, real people. Because I would be hanging around with them if they thought, assault would be it's a funny, good thing, whatever, humorous thing. But the other thing is, like, nowhere in the comic books was it treated that way. Garth Ennis is a great writer, and that's why, I'm even just recently bought his Get Fury story arc, right, comic book, and miniseries, which I haven't, like I said, I haven't bought any comic books for the story in ages, because most of the comic books in the mainstream is just like regurgitation of some other stuff, and so I'm not keen on that. But when it comes to Garth Ennis, I would buy his Punisher book any day, and that's what that's part of that. Get Fury is part of the Punisher series, which I'm a huge. Punisher's in my top 3. There's Batman, John Constantine. Sadly, I don't like what they've done with him in DC since Vertigo ended. But I do, Constantine is one of my favorite characters. So Batman, Constantine, and Punisher has always been my favorite. And with Garth Ennis is the reason why I actually got into Punisher. Because and with Garth Ennis, and this is the thing about Garth Ennis as a writer, he's very rounded. He writes a lot of war stories, and he does a lot of research for those war stories. So when you look at stories based in Vietnam, he knows what he's talking about. You look at like World War II stories, with his I think the title is actually called comic series. It's from Dynamite. It's called War Stories, and it's got little arcs and stuff. And there's some really, really great story arcs in that series, man. There's one that sticks in my head, and I think I've got it somewhere. It's about it's based around a diary, and I think it was just one such story or something, and it was just brilliant. And I think a lot of these writers who write these things don't actually understand the work of the other works that the writer's done, because all they go is, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and this is, and they don't understand. If you look at the artist's other works, you'll get an idea, or the writer's other works, you'll get an idea of where that person's about. When it comes to the art, when it comes to the work, not the person, but the work. And so you can see there's no Garth has never been, Ennis, right? Garth Ennis, right? The writer of the Boys has never been heavy-handed in the way he writes, which is why I really love his work, because it's like there's like the villains are the villains, the heroes are the heroes. They do, there are terrible things happen in the world. We need someone to fix that, or we need to bring them to justice, and so forth. There isn't no glorifying what's being shown. Like I said, like I'm writing stuff that's like has to deal with some sort of not always good stuff, and in that book, that's what that is. And then there's some really cool stuff like sword and sorcery and adventures, superheroes books as well. But if you suddenly saw one of my books suddenly do something weird, you'd be like, what happened to him? Right? Why are these characters like, I thought this guy was a hero, right? And now he's like a what? And then you got to find out, okay, well, why that happened? It's like Huey, right? His innocence, right? He's like right at the start of issue 1, and he's there, and he's having this great date with his girlfriend, whose name I can't remember right now. And and they're just out in a park, Ferris wheels in the back, if I remember right. And there comes, I think is it A-Train or some other moron villain hero, and just rushes past them and like straight through his girlfriend. And and I'm like, exactly, this isn't a kid's book, so you understand it's going to be dealt with in a mature way, and the content's going to be mature. And like this was like, even when we talk about Robot Nation, how it's a mature reader's comic book. It's not meant for young people. It's meant for people who understand what's going on, in a mature adult setting with the comic books, right? With the stories that you're going to hear. Not every single one is like, gross or violent or vile or anything like that. It's just that it's easy to, put a label and say, hey, it's mature. And so, there is not somebody going, well, this is, I gave it to my, son and daughter or cousin or whatever, and they saw this like, how old are they? That's where it comes over when it comes to like, as a comic book seller, right? And dealing with people for like, I know about maybe 12, 14 years as a salesperson in business, working for other people, and then a year or so working for myself in retail. So yeah, I think I'm so glad I stayed the hell away from the live action, because it will really, it'll really make ruin it for me as a fan of the book. That's the reason why I didn't like watch the Watchmen series TV show. You know, I'm happy with the, with the comics being the comics. I've had people come to me and go, well, which comics would you like of yours being turned into something? And I said, there's only one, and it's a crime drama that I can think of, because that's about real people doing real things, right? It's not about these superheroes doing superhero things, or it's not about this fantasy world of fantasy thing. I mean, yeah, it won't be like, I'll be like, I can handle animation, but never live action of these these comic book characters, right? You know, I, I think in the end of it, when it comes down to stuff like adaptations, it's, for me personally, it'd be really hard to go, okay, take this and do whatever you want with it. And that's why when I was asked it, I was like, there's only one thing. Because I actually offered up another one, which is Red Dot, as a movie. I actually wrote this 50-page spec script, which includes dialogues, outlines, what's happening, anything, like 50 pages of it. It took me about 2 weeks to write it. And we handed it over to a studio, and then the studio said, no, we don't want it. And then they took it and basically did their own thing based off it. And they made 2 movies of it, here and in Australia, by the same studio we took it to in California, right? So I don't really trust Hollywood types as such, or studios and stuff. And so I'm very, very protective of what I create. Check out our Kickstarter page. So it's Plunge. That's the wrong one. Did you change on me? Yeah, you did. So Plunge NZ is our, is our Kickstarter page. So whatever, anything we do that's like not PG, right? Will be on this page here, on our Kickstarter page. So you get all our stuff like that. But do check it out. So this is, this is our Kickstarter page, Plunge NZ, the projects page. And thank you for joining me today. Wherever you are, be well, be safe, and all the best for you and your family. And like I always say, if you got a loved one close by, give them a hug and a kiss. And if they're not, right, let them know. You got like social media, you've got like phone, whatever, text messaging, chat, Skype. Because people like to be told that that they're cared for and that they're loved. And I think that's the way we can, make the world a better place, taking care of each other. So wherever you are, ka kite anō, which is farewell in Maori in New Zealand, and have a good day, and we'll catch you next time. Check out the Kickstarter. Check out our socials. It's all the links are for the socials are on our homepage, right, on this channel. And also do share and like our, if you like the videos or clips or whatever we put out. It's all about having fun and creating really good art, right? Trying to really trying to bring something interesting to the world of comic books through our great artists. And also, if you're the first time here, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Get down. Have a good day, good week, and good month if we don't see you next time.
Support Robot Nation #1 comic book on the crowdfunding site Kickstarter. A 44-page sci-fi horror comic book for mature readers from New Zealand.